All right, top of the morning to everybody. Nice to have you here. The 11th day of September, year of our Lord, 2025. A subdued tone. I toyed with whether or not we should even have the choir open us up today. After the tragic events of yesterday, the assassination and martyrdom of Charlie Kirk. We will talk about that throughout the course of the program. We've got a great lineup of guests here today, and love to read your comments. So this is your way that you can kind of step onto the platform, and all the platforms out there, Rumble, etc. Everybody gets a chance to sound off. We'd love to hear from you on your Charlie Kirk memories, Charlie Kirk thoughts, and what it means for America on this tragic and awful day of reflecting how wicked and evil the left is. And I keep reading. I read Barack Obama's tweet, and I appreciated the essence of it. He said we're praying. He and Michelle are praying for the Kirk family, the children, which is very nice. And I like it when someone says you're praying, because I'm a guy that believes that thoughts and prayers do matter. But I thought the caveat that some people throw out there is reading some of the chats that are around the internet out there, besides the utter hatred and vitriol, there seems to be an unwillingness to accept a fact in America that this was evil. And I think Barack Obama said, we don't really know what motivated this person. Yeah, hatred motivated this person. Vile, demonic motivated this person to do what they did. And so you don't need, it's kind of like we put these precursors on our thoughts and say, well, it happens on both sides. No, it doesn't. There's bad people on both sides, who are both political parties, but the last I noticed, the political violence, the political retribution, the political hatred out there on these mass scales have been Democrats and people inspired by legacy media. You hear people called Hitler and Nazi and fascist and all these names enough. Suddenly somebody clicks and think they're becoming Captain America by taking out the greatest threat, when actually the people saying it don't really believe it. They're just trying to get clicks or get ratings and gain followers. So it's really a sad commentary on the media of this country, where we're at, where we've been, and the question becomes whether or not we shall change. So all the platforms out there, whether you're on the Rumble or the Facebook pages, we're on numerous Facebook pages. We are live on the Instagram this morning. So wherever you're at, love to hear from you. We'll check in and out of those, but glad to have you chime in, give me your thoughts. It happened yesterday. I was heading out to a meeting, had a couple of errands to run, and just as I was leaving my office, I saw the flash on the screen that said shooting at university in Utah, and I said, "Oh, okay." And I didn't really watch it. I just kept moving. I knew there was a shooting at a high school in Colorado yesterday, and that was just the television had been on in the background, and I just saw that flash across the screen as it was kind of a breaking news. And I got in the car and I made a couple of phone calls, and I did the things that I normally do, ran some errands, and then I turned on the radio, and I heard that this thing in Utah was involving Charlie Kirk. And as I was driving, listening to the breaking news of this Charlie Kirk shooting, the preliminary reports were that he had been rushed to the hospital getting transfusions. Was in critical condition. Unfortunately, after I saw the actual video, which if you can watch it, it's pure evil personified. The actual, there's somebody back second, third row that got the whole thing. It was, and I when I saw it, I said, "Oh yeah, that was a kill shot for sure." But as I was listening to it, and I'm trying to contemplate, and I was going to grab a sandwich, and I ended up grabbing the sandwich, and I didn't really eat it. I lost my appetite. And I'm driving, and I'm listening, and I'm going, this can't be happening. They had not pronounced Charlie as dead yet publicly. And I get a text from my son, and my son is a 20-year-old college student. And probably like most people, if your dad is in a certain business, and of course I have been in news talk conservative radio since he was a child, since he was born. So he knows that everybody turns to daddy for political conversation. Everybody likes to talk politics with dad. And so he's kind of quiet. He's not a political debater. And once he got his card to vote at the age of 18, voted the presidential election, I have to tell you that he's got very strong conservative values, but probably kind of like the preacher's kid, not necessarily wanting to go to the same profession as daddy if he can avoid it. And so, but my son texted me as I was just listening to the unfolding story, and it was pretty fresh, and I'm just trying to catch up like, oh, wow, I need to get to a television, but I've got to get places. And my son texted me and said, "Dad, did you hear what they did to Charlie Kirk? It's horrible." And I was amazed that my son, had he been 5 or 10 minutes earlier, my son would have been breaking the news to me. And I said, Charlie Kirk actually had an impact that my seemingly non-political son, who actually has great political values, but he's not vocal about it. He's just kind of an average kid and doesn't, but he knew immediately what happened to Charlie. And I just kind of stored that away and said, well, there's impact that my son, who pretends at times not to be interested in politics as much because dad's in it, that's dad's career. And again, like the preacher's kid, hoping not to have to be a preacher one day because he sees all the pain and misery that dad goes through. They want a different profession. So that's absolutely fine with me. But I just stored it in the back of my memories and I said, my son is actually 5 minutes earlier would have broken the news to me. And so I got to the place where I was going and going to do some work and grab a cigar and do some conversation. And I ran across producer Chad. I just stumbled across him like he was laying on the streets of Denver. Now, I stumbled across producer Chad, and producer Chad had a very similar experience with his son, who's a senior in high school. And his son came home and said, Dad, I got this video. In other words, they were the kids in high school and college were acutely aware of what happened to Charlie Kirk. And then later on, I saw another friend. He has a son that is friend Tony has a son that's about 25 years old, and he said his son was driving on a long drive coming back to get back into Colorado, and his son was texting him and calling him saying, Dad, did you hear what happened to Charlie Kirk? So I don't know if you had a similar experience, but three people that I immediately discussed the topic with, two people plus myself, I was just amazed at how I heard that it was the students or the younger crowd that was really acutely paying attention to it. So it's crazy to think of the impact that Charlie had on the old university campus. Ann says my 21-year-old son was the one who informed me. He was appalled by it. I had no idea he even followed him. I didn't know that my son did either because, again, my son probably avoids politics because he's like, Dad, that's Dad's job. He stays out of it. But by the way, my son votes right. I've seen it. I took his ballot one time. I said, put it in the envelope. I'll deliver it for you. And I said, I'm going to look at it. He goes, you can look at it. And I said, okay, good. It's marked right or I was going to lose it along the way. I would not if I would have let his ballot count. But it might have gotten there late. So I don't know. But it was really amazing. So I want to hear your stories. A 21-year-old son saying the same thing, informing you Charlie Kirk yesterday assassinated by nut jobs by the American left. There's another precursor caveat that drives me crazy. I heard people saying yesterday, like Barack Obama's tweet, we don't know the motivation. Yeah, we do. It's demonic motivation. It's hateful people that have been indoctrinated, the people that speak. I mean, you think of what Charlie Kirk did. He was not a firebrand speaker that held an audience. And no, he was a guy that went on the college campus and he was sharp and he was quick-witted and he could stand his ground. But his whole shtick, if you will, his whole ministry, if you will, his whole endeavor was saying, hey, if you disagree with me politically, please step up and have a microphone and let's talk. You can have a microphone, I'll have a microphone, and we're just going to go back and forth and we can have an exchange of ideals. That should be something that we welcome in America. But evidently we've raised a bunch of pussified kids and youngsters out there that can't handle hearing someone else's opinion. And I tweeted this out. I hope it goes viral. I coined the phrase, if they can't cancel you, they'll kill you. And that's what they've tried to do with so many. They tried to cancel Donald Trump, lock his butt up in jail, life sentence without parole, if you will. Then they tried to kill him. If they can't cancel you, they will kill you. Charlie Kirk, they've done everything they can to destroy Turning Point USA, and they will kill you. So I posted that up last night, and I think that's the mantra or the tagline of the modern American left today. If they can't cancel you, they'll kill you. And I think my great question becomes who in the Democrat Party, who on the American left is finally going to step up and say, we've got to stop this crap immediately, and we've got to reject these people that have invaded our party and bring and permeate these kind of thoughts. And I don't know if they have the ability to do it. And I honestly don't know. I don't know where we go from here as a country when the American left still wants to justify, well, we don't know his motivation. The other precursor they put on these statements is, well, it happens on both sides. It really doesn't. It honest to God doesn't. There's bad people on both sides. But the political violence that we have seen in recent memory has all been people that have been motivated by the American left and the American media. you know that the grown-ups in the room, the so-called elected officials, it's not just these blue-haired kids living in their mama's basement rapidly tweeting or rapidly keyboard warrioring. Yesterday, Lauren Boebert went to the floor of the House and said, we've had a silent prayer. Can we have a public prayer for Charlie Kirk? And rather than going, yeah, we should do that, they all decided to start screaming, and they couldn't get a prayer in because the Democrats, the left side of the aisle in the House of Representatives, if you haven't seen the video, you can see it. They started screaming, no, we don't want public prayer. Isn't it amazing how the Democrats use prayer, and when they think the camera's on C-SPAN, it's not right in their face. We don't want to pray. And yet you have our governor here in Colorado saying, well, our thoughts and prayers are with the Kirk family. Well, maybe your thoughts and prayers should also be on how you get control of the radicals that have taken over the identity of your party and the identity of your leftward movement. And maybe you should find out where you pussified a generation so much that they're offended to a murderous feeling because Charlie Kirk wanted to give somebody a microphone and have an exchange of ideals. And that is something so crazy that's the world we live in now. Now, there's a breaking news story. I'll try to break it as we have. Donald Trump has announced he's going to give Charlie Kirk the Medal of Freedom posthumously. Donald Trump is also speaking at the September 11th commemoration 24 years ago today. So there's a lot to talk about and a lot to process, and I've still got some processing to do on the Charlie Kirk thing. I put this up on my Facebook, facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. I put this up last night, that as being in conservative radio, political media, very small figure I am. I'm no Charlie Kirk. I'm no Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity. I just got my little niche that I fit in. But even in my little niche, my harmless little effervescent self, I have been greatly threatened at times. There was a time there that I had to take some pretty good precautions. I had to not do an event that I was going to do for a fundraising for an organization back several years ago because corporate said we can't insure you. There have been times that I have received some very interesting comments and or threats that you have to take them very seriously, and I won't give all the details of all the things that have been. As a matter of fact, last year, and I did not go public with this even when I left iHeart, last year there was an employee in the iHeart building that continually would send very weird messages, strange messages. Maybe I don't know if they were drug-induced. I don't know but they were hatred. They were hatred towards me, hatred towards my political views. And if you've watched me very long, I'm pretty much a pretty happy warrior. I mean, I can be passionate at times, but I think I'm a pretty happy warrior. But this person kept sending messages, and they never really dealt with it. They had a stern talking to. And then it was the weekend of July the 13th of last year. July the 13th last year was the weekend that Donald Trump, they attempted to take his life the first time. Political violence from the American left. And by the way, we still don't know much about that Crook skid, do we? We don't know a lot about him. They had that body cremated really quick. There's something that we still don't know about. And maybe I'm the only guy that's still asking the questions about it. But on that same weekend, I got a very nasty message from this person that was a gainfully employed employee of the iHeart Kingdom. And their thought was that they probably wanted to fire his butt, and they should have, but they knew that corporate was such a cheap ass that they would rather keep me in danger than to take care of an employee problem, because they were afraid if they took care of the employee, corporate would cut the budget, and that person would no longer they wouldn't be able to refill the position because the iHeart jackwagons were so cheap and always cutting things that sometimes if you vacated a position, they did not give you the position to rehire. And so I had always, for the most part, done my radio show from my own Lakey Entertainment Tower studios, but we were going through a little phase and building some sales, and I was going into the studio a little bit more and more. Long story, parts of last year, I was going in there several times a week. And after the July 13th message, I told them I'm not coming in. And I think they suspended the guy. I don't know. Then they never got rid of the person. And one of the reasons I refused to go in was because at times in the morning, I would be the only person in the building with that person. And this is a type of person that you never knew when somebody's going to go snap, and the old folks will remember the phrase and go postal. And that was my fear. And yet corporate took it very seriously. They disciplined it and wrote a stern letter, but they wouldn't get rid of the person because they knew that their business was so effed up that if they canned the person, they might not be able to replace the person, and the person did a lot of petty work that was hard to get done, but a lot of busy work, I should say. So that's the world we live in which there's no consequences for these actions. Even this person never really experienced a consequence for their action. Very unprofessional. This guy was a grown-ass man, pushing 60 years old, but he had been so indoctrinated by the MSNBC types that Donald Trump was the orange man and orange man was bad, and this guy was leaving threatening messages, but corporate couldn't deal with it. He could face no consequences because they were afraid that iHeart wouldn't rehire him, and they needed that body. And I refused to go in because I wasn't going to become a dead body. So it's a long story, but I tell you, the American left for a long time has scared me. I've been threatened before. I've had threats. I've had to change my plans, all sorts of things that I won't bore you with all the details of. It's all behind the scenes. But here's how bat crap crazy the American left is. My son, as many of you know, is a football player, played football in high school, goes to college playing football, and does his thing. And there have been many, many times that he will proudly wear some of his gear on the college campus or whatever, and it proudly says Lakey on the back. It's a jersey. It's a hoodie that the team gives you or whatever. And there have been times I've watched him walk out the door, and you know what? I've actually said prayers. I said, God, protect him from the American left. That's how crazy the Democrat Party is. I actually have watched my son walk out a door with the last name on his back. Not going to tell him he can't do it because it is the family name. He should be proud of it. He's an accomplished athlete. He should be proud of that. And so I wasn't going to interfere and say you shouldn't wear that in public. But I've actually, this isn't just recently. This has been the last many years as he got older. God protect my son from the crazies in Jared Polis's party. Protect my son from the people that support Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Protect my son because he has a name on his shirt. There are people out there that would do some very, very nasty things out there. And so that's where my mindset has been. So yesterday hit very, very, very close to home. And very, very, very close to home. And may Charlie Kirk and his beautiful wife, his memory be remembered with his wife and kids. All right, glad to have all of you home. Every time I share stories like that of my own personal experience, I don't share a lot of them. People say, you need to tell more stories like that. Well, I don't, so you're welcome. All right, let me bring in my first guest of the morning. Michael Letts, our great friend, is in the studio with us. He's in the virtual studio. He's investusa.org, investusa.org. Charlie, I feel like I want to sing Kumbaya, and yet I also feel like I want to be John the Baptist screaming that these people are crazy and just expose the vitriol that they have embraced inside their political movement. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Jimmy. It's always a privilege to be with you. We thank you for the opportunity. And yes, you're right. Charlie was a good friend, and there's a lot needs to be done.
Yeah. I want to talk about the law enforcement side. I was going to tell the audience, I didn't tell anybody this yesterday. I didn't know Charlie. We weren't buddies or anything, but I met him several times. I know at least once or twice he was on the show. I think the first time was a 2020 Republican convention. He stopped by. They were shuttling guests by my Fox News booth when I was doing the Fox News radio affiliation, and they brought him by and had the chance. Very nice guy. Saw him at a couple of events that I broadcast at. So I won't say we're good friends or friends, but he was an acquaintance for sure, and somebody that I always enjoyed just a few moments that we got to spend together. Michael, as you watched this unfold yesterday, I'm kind of going, where were the police? Where was that? I know it's Utah. They said there were 6 campus policemen on duty, about an estimated crowd of 3,000. Obviously, hindsight better than foresight. They underestimated maybe the crowd size, but just from a law enforcement lens, what did you see yesterday?
Well, what I saw, quite frankly, was basically what I would have expected. You say, what do you mean by that? When you're talking about a private individual, and I mean, Charlie, like I said, great friend, but Charlie was not an elected official. He was not, given taxpayer security details. And quite frankly, Jimmy, if you're going to do it right, it's almost like you have a presidential detail. You have to go in ahead of time with an advanced team. You have to determine your access points, your points of advantage or vantage points that they can be utilized for sniper fire. You have to make sure those are all covered or in some way inhibited so that they cannot be used in that form or fashion. Then on the day of the event, not only do you have your agents within the audience itself scoping, but you have them obviously on the platform to make sure they keep anybody from getting too close. are making a rush. But you also have to have your air surveillance. You have to have drones in the air. Remember, this was the big issue that happened with the president at Butler. They didn't do any protocol. But my point being, Jimmy, is that is an expensive adventure. And not very many private citizens can afford it. The other thing it points to is we just need to be frank with each other, Jimmy. When it comes to providing security for conservatives, that's probably not on public officials' mind very highly, if you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. So they give you the bare necessity, what's there. You said, with the bare necessity, was it adequate? What could have been done? The officers did the right thing in terms of the bare minimum, making sure they capitalize on being close by to keep immediate threats away from Charlie, which they did. But however, to determine that there was a sniper on a roof, they would have had to have a lot more assets. The university wasn't going to fund it, wasn't going to pay for it, wasn't going to provide it. I don't think they do that for very many people, period. And this is what happens when you don't have that level of protection. So the question becomes, could anything have done to avert it? I thought it was interesting in the thorough review of the videos that the shot, when it was taken, contrary to what most news agencies are reporting, that it was a hit to the neck. It appears, Jimmy, that it hit lower, that it hit the clavicle, ricocheted up, severed the artery, and he bled out that way. If that proves to be accurate, then an active shooter vest may very well have made a difference.
Yep. If you're listening to the podcast version later on, that's Michael Letts, investusa.org. We'll talk about these active shooter vests, investusa.org. Always check out that website. Michael, I'm told, I was watching early this morning. I was up having a tough time sleeping, just thinking about this. And I was watching, and they said the FBI is flying their best and the brightest out there to Utah. They'll be going to the position where they think the guy was in a prone position, and they'll be using lasers to determine the
trajectory,
the trajectory, and they're suspecting that maybe the reason they went lower is because the tent that it was under maybe blocked the actual headshot. But when somebody can take one shot from that distance and not panic, okay, got it, and walk away, it's not like it was rapid fire, I'll get him with one of them. Does that speak to you that this is what someone that's trained in this? I mean, that's pretty confident. One shot, boom, we're done, as opposed to take multiple shots and hope you hit the best.
Well, yes, Jimmy. The short answer is yes, but there's even more to it than that. When you have other people that were obviously set up, I'm not saying they were charged with anything, but set up to be a part who we determined they thought, oh, he was the shooter, he was guilty. That robbed precious time when their efforts were concentrated on that instead of continuing to scour to where the shot may have come from. They should have known good and well that that is not the kind of suspect you're looking for. But it appears that this was a very well-planned, very coordinated, logistical military type operation. Jimmy, those are expensive. It takes money, it takes assets to do that. This was not somebody that walked by and got mad at what you said and punched you in the nose. This was very well orchestrated, very well professionally planned out. And so that leads to the next step. People who do that kind of thing have not only, you have to follow the cash, the wealth, not only have wealth to fund it, but they also have access. They also have access to power, or to people who are in key positions. So when you suddenly tell me that the FBI is investigating, hey, they've got great ability to investigate. I'm not knocking their ability to investigate at all. What I am knocking is we're having such an issue having to clean out an awful lot of agents that have become nefarious or taken up the wrong causes. You can't be for sure, are you going to get the information that's discovered? You know, I asked this question, Jimmy, you alluded to it. We still don't know what happened to the president in Butler. And there's a reason why, because they're blocking those who have access or who have power are able to put in stumbling blocks and block the ability for that information to be disseminated. Are we going to encounter the same thing here? I'm not questioning, are we going to find out what really happened? What I'm going to question is, are you and I going to ever know about it?
Yeah. Again, the voice of Michael Letts. I think it's a very fair question. Can we trust some of the people that might be at the forefront or maybe behind the scenes blocking some of this stuff? There's an interesting story. Everything sounds so buckled up and polished and well thought out. And what some people, even last night, commentators for FBI agents, former FBI agents, were saying it looked like a kind of a professional hit, meaning the person knew what they were doing. Story that just hit this morning from westernjournal.com. They're quoting the Steven Crowder podcast, the conservative commentary from Louder with Crowder, and he's published a post on his social media with what appears to be an internal memo from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And it's describing, and Fox News is reporting that they have found what they think is the weapon, but Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms is describing what looks like a non-cooperative memo, describes a rifle and unspent cartridges found where the shooter was positioned, and all cartridges have engraved words on them expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology. Again, this is not officially corroborated by, but it looks like the memo looks legit from the DOJ webshot as a screenshot. And Steven Crowder has been known to break some pretty interesting stories before, and they have been very accurate. My question is this. For somebody that seemed to have this planned out so professionally and so knowing what they were doing, would they really leave something behind like this?
Yes, would be the bottom answer, if their determination is to make a statement. And quite frankly, let me give you some interesting facts that have happened recently to add into this. I'm just causing your listeners to be able to put on their own thinking cap. I pulled the figures to the last 9 active shooter cases. That means cases that people were shot up in churches, in malls, in schools, elementary schools, Catholic churches, Christian schools, etc. All 9 of those incidences of active shooters were all done by transgender individuals.
Wow.
So if this is being a pattern, which obviously you can do the math and figure out it is, and statements are being made accordingly to try to bring attention to that cause, then yes, by all means, that could have been the case, Jimmy.
That's one of the things that Charlie had been criticized by the American left because he had noted that. Matter of fact, the question that he never got to give the answer. They said, how many recent active shooters were transgender or affiliated with that? His answer was too many. And they were going to ask him a follow-up. He picked it up, and that's when they took the kill shot. So, but again, that's a piece of truth, piece of evidence, piece of a nugget of information that the American media is not demanding more information on. We know it's out there, but there's somebody out there that doesn't want us to know the truth, and the media could push for it, but they're not pushing.
No, well, it's not part of the narrative. It's not part of their agenda. You remember let's get back to the basics. What is the agenda? What is the narrative? And how are they trying to fulfill it? They lost power. We're talking about the ultra liberal left, who are just literally, Jimmy, they have so seared their conscience, they don't have one, and they're basically absolutely nuts. Okay, that's put it in layman's terms. But because of that, they're doing anything they can to regain power. They don't have any reason anymore. They have a seared conscience, so they can't understand the difference between right and wrong. And so they'll do whatever's necessary: shoot people, assassinate people, sell their mother, whatever it takes. And that's what you're seeing pouring out now, this hatred that comes because of that bitterness that the left possesses. And they're trying to do everything desperately to regain the power that they lost back in November. Little do they realize is that what they're doing is actually compounding their problem, making it 10 times worse. Instead of one conservative voice now, it's going to be amplified tenfold by more people pouring out to take the place to stand with Charlie and his legacy. So they're actually hurting themselves, not helping themselves, but they can't comprehend and reason that. The reason why I'm telling you all this, Jimmy, is leading into the next statement. I don't think you've seen the end of this. I think you've seen the tip of the iceberg.
I heard it speculated. Somebody said on this, watching some of the shows last night, I had recorded all of them, just fast forwarded through to get kind of a highlight. And I don't know if it was on one of the Fox shows, but somebody pointed out anybody that's out there that's of giving opinions like a Charlie Kirk, and Charlie had a lot of dialogue, but whether you're a Jesse Waters, Laura Ingraham, or any conservative person out there, they have to start taking their security. There's a killer out there literally still on the loose.
Oh, there is. And here's what I would give you some bad news, but we need to tell it like it is. Even if we pick him up this afternoon, There's plenty more that are willing to step in and take his place. So here's what has to happen, Jimmy, is, and we've said this on your show quite often, and I'm pushing the administration in this direction. We've done a fantastic job of identifying the nefarious activities. Unfortunately, I still have people say, great, how soon are they going to get locked up? When are we going after them? We haven't performed as well there, Jimmy. And until we start holding people accountable for their actions, we're reinforcing an attitude that I can do whatever I want to, and there are no real consequences. And as long as we allow that to be reinforced, it's going to get a whole lot worse, not better.
Yeah. People have to be held accountable for their actions until it gets worse. And the media also, yesterday, you might have heard the goofy statement made by commentator Matthew Dowd on MSNBC. And he said it might have just been a frantic fan of Charlie Kirk shooting a gun in the air. And if you're going to say bad things, you got to expect bad things. That's what he said. Now, MSNBC, to their, I guess, credit, did fire him within a couple of hours and issued a statement saying that they regret he said it and he's apologetic, but he doesn't have a job there anymore. But the greater point is networks like MSNBC have let drivel like that drip out for the last many, many years, hyperbolic, incendiary language, and they should have fired a heck of a lot of more people besides Matthew Dowd if they're serious about that type of rhetoric not mattering.
And if they're not serious, I think it's time to do what the president has suggested over the last few weeks. We need to start reviewing FCC licenses and determine whether these networks are worthy of carrying such trust, because it is a trust. It's not a right. It's a trust.
Yeah,
it's a trust we've given to them to help make sure the American people are informed. And if they can't give them information, they have to give them narrative and their narrative, liberal ideology. Then I think it's time we move those FCC licenses to somebody who can do the job appropriately.
Michael Letts, investusa.org. Michael, you are a prolific defender of law enforcement, and you provide tactical gear for law enforcement and making sure they're protected on the streets. I wish, sadly to say, you're going to have to put people like me and Charlie or you or Heidi Ganahl, my next guest, anybody who has an opinion, and you got American lefties out there. We're getting to the place you wonder, do all of us have to have tactical gear? These people are proving themselves to be a little bit dangerous.
My quick answer to that, Jimmy, is yes. We better start making sure we get them all to everybody, because I'd rather you be a little uncomfortable wearing one than to have to attend your funeral.
Yeah. investusa.org if you'd like to help Michael Letts and his great organization put tactical gear in the hands and on the bodies of law enforcement officers all across America, ICE agents, local police, sheriff's departments. That's what they do. investusa.org, investusa.org. Michael, I appreciate you as always for hopping on, and it's a sad day, my friend, and God bless, and we'll keep plugging along. Thank you, sir. Michael Letts, investusa.org. All right, don't forget all the platforms out there. We have a lot of folks watch us live. By the end of the day, people listen to the podcast version of the show. Thousands of earballs will hear this show, and I always want to remind you that you can listen to it later. Some of you watch it live, but it is you can listen to it later on the iHeart app, the Spotify app, the Apple Podcast app, the Podbean. Lots of ways for you to get connected to the program besides just watching it live. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in the state of Colorado, you recognize the name of Heidi Ganahl. She was one of the last standing statewide elected Republican officials as a regent at the University of Colorado. And just about three years ago or so, she put her hat in the ring to become our governor. Unfortunately, she was not successful in that bid for governor, but Heidi Ganahl remains very active in Colorado and national politics and commentary and getting the news out. She's got a brand new venture out in which she wants to hear the voice of people in the Rocky Mountains, and she wants people to be able to speak freely. And that's what Charlie Kirk stood for as well. Heidi Ganahl joins us onto the program. Good morning, Heidi.
Good morning, Jimmy. It's a very, very sad day to wake up in America, and we lost a warrior for the conservative movement, and it's a heartbreaking time.
Yeah, don't you start crying, because I've been losing it all day. Here's a question for you. I saw the reason I reached out to you and texted you is I said, Heidi, I see your photos with Charlie, and I think we have those up there. You put those out there. We have the Heidi Ganal photos with Charlie Kirk. If we have those, let's put those up. Anyway, you've obviously interacted with Charlie. Kind of talk about your meeting of Charlie. How often did you interact? Were just special events? Just your relationship with Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. We met a decade ago when he was just getting started with Turning Point, and I was just getting ready to run for regent. My dad actually sat next to him at the LPR retreat. This is back in, 2014, I think.
Yeah.
And my dad was so impressed with him and just thought he was a dynamo. And so he introduced him to myself, but also my daughter, who was a student, there's Tori, at University of Oregon at the time, and talked her into, over dinner, like at the LPR retreat, on a phone call, for running for student government on one of the first Turning Point tickets across the country. And then I helped, Charlie and I helped Marcus Vitanos run at CU Boulder. And it was just, I mean, it was life-changing to work with Charlie. I called him a political savant. He could speak about any issue politically and just blow you out of your shoes. You know, it was just incredible. And he, to this day, he's just gotten better and better. He got better and better at that. So over the years, we got to know each other better as I was a regent and leaned on him, and he leaned on me to really make a difference in higher education. And then when I ran for governor, he was a rock and endorsed me and helped me however he could. And just a wonderful, wonderful patriot. And I'm devastated.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I want to get into, and I think, we mourn the loss of Charlie. I think of Erica, his wife, two beautiful children. I mean, just the horrible way this happened, and you hope that justice is brought quickly to whoever did this. But this was an attempt to silence our side. This is an attempt that if we can't cancel you, we'll kill you, is the phrase that I used yesterday. They did it with our president. If we can't beat you, and you're going to keep doing this, we're going to try to lock you up in jail. We have a problem in this country, Heidi, with political opposition not wanting there to be a discourse. They want to silence us. They've tried it before. You've been in the arena of ideals before. You felt the vitriol of the American left. I want to say, well, there's some real good people on the American left, but I'm starting to wonder, where are they? Because they got to chase these rabid fools out, and they haven't done it yet.
Yeah, Jimmy, this is a big issue. And I mean, I got my share of death threats and just horrible people attacking me when I was running for governor or as a regent. And you try and just brush it off. But what happens is, the young people that we're trying to get involved in the movement through Turning Point, through American Conservation Coalition, Colorado Young Republicans, it's awfully scary to say to our young people, stay strong, speak out, be brave, be bold, when you watch their mentor get gunned down, assassinated in front of them. And as a mom, it's terrifying for me to encourage my kids to do that. I can do it for myself. That's my decision, but they're scared for me. That's the first thing that happened yesterday. Was my 16-year-old called me, and she just started the Turning Point chapter at Valor High School and said, Mom, are you okay? Are you okay? How are we going to keep doing this and fighting for what we believe in? This isn't right. This isn't fair. This breaks my heart.
Yeah. It really is sad. I know with Rocky Mountain Voice, which is your new work, I'll let you talk about it. But you've tried to, I guess, expose some things that really all Americans, all Coloradoans should find interest in, from voting irregularities, voting machines. And just rather than saying, hey, that's a great point, tell me more, I know for a fact you have been demonized just because you're raising a question that should interest all of us. It's not a red issue or a blue issue, but for some reason, everything gets divided red and blue today.
Yeah, it does. And I would say it's becoming more evil versus good. And one thing that Charlie said very boldly is that he wants to be remembered for his faith and his commitment to Jesus Christ. And I believe they just amplified that message and that ability to reach young people across this country, across the world, with the message of Jesus Christ through their assassination of Charlie. And I think that's what he will be most proud of, watching down from us, is that the gospel is going to spread because they tried to extinguish it. And isn't that the story of history and Christianity? And we have to stay bold, and we have to believe that God has our back and is going to protect us as we move forward and try and save this country.
Yeah. You mentioned your daughter that was at the University of Oregon. You mentioned your 16-year-old in high school calling you when it happened. I told the audience earlier, my son, I just heard the news myself, and my son, who's 20 now, in college, he calls me, Dad, or texted me, Dad, did you see what they did to Charlie Kirk? It's horrible. And my son kind of stays out of the political fray because, that's daddy's job. I don't want that profession. I was shocked that he was Johnny on the spot. If I was 5 minutes in from learning what had happened, and my son was already attuned to it. Producer Chad's son is in high school, and he kind of broke the news to producer Chad. We have another friend who's 25-year-old kind of told him what was happening. It is amazing that we joke about them all being addicted to their screens, but Charlie Kirk changed something for those kids.
He did, Jimmy, and he taught them to be bold and strong and be principled and understand how to articulate our values and our principles and why we're conservative and why our young people should be conservative too. That's the path forward for America. And young people are starting to wake up. They recognize that. And I believe that Gen Z is going to take back this country. A young patriot, Isabel Brown, who is from Colorado, wrote a book about how Gen Z is going to save America. And I truly believe that's the case. We as grownups need to have their backs. We need to encourage them. We need to, spar with them a little bit to get them experienced and good at debating, because that is still the path forward, is having a good, strong debate about what the right way forward for our country is. And we know we're on the right side of that argument.
Yeah. Again, the voice of Heidi and all, if you're listening later on the podcast platforms. Heidi, I want to give you a second to talk about Rocky Mountain Voice, because you're trying to give voice to a side in Colorado in the Rocky Mountain region that's not oftentimes heard. That's the voice of conservatives or Republicans and people that just are the far left out there. We're often silenced in so many things. Talk about Rocky Mountain Voice, your mission, your work, and how do people follow?
Well, yes, it's inspired by exactly what's happening right now. Is we're being silenced. And so Rocky Mountain Voice is a platform to highlight you and all the amazing people that speak up and speak for our values and get the word out to more and more voters across Colorado. We have over 50 citizen journalists and contributors that constantly are writing and providing us feedback and tips. We have a great writing team, an incredible editor, Jen Schumann, who is taking people's words and crafting them so that they're beautiful and get across to folks. And we're hosting events across the state. We just had a really amazing event with Eric Trump a couple months ago, and we're going to be doing more of that. One of our goals is to make it fun to be a Republican again, but today is somber and it's serious, and it's more and more important than ever that we get the word out to voters across Colorado that there's a different way forward. There's a different way forward. And I'm honored to have my daughter, Tori, as one of the voices or faces of Rocky Mountain Voice. She does these Mountain Minute videos. We do a newsletter 5 times a week with the news of the day, and her videos are going viral, and she's really making an impact with young people, not just across Colorado, but the whole Rocky Mountain region. So RockyMountainVoice.com, Jimmy, it's free. There's no ads or paywalls or subscription costs. It's a way that you can share the good word of the conservative movement of Colorado.
RockyMountainVoice.com, correct?
Yes.
Heidi, we got to talk again, catch up under better circumstances. I'm glad we both controlled you almost had me at the beginning. I thought you were going to turn on the water, and I was like, don't do that to me again. It's been a tough
I want to.
It's been a tough one. Heidi Ganal, God bless you. RockyMountainVoice.com, RockyMountainVoice.com. Appreciate you hopping in here. All right, good to have all of you here. Somber day in America. Give me your thoughts out there. I could have asked Heidi that question. I don't believe so. I don't think Heidi's running again right now. So I'll answer it for her. Could be wrong. That didn't come from her. All right. But yeah, I wish she was our governor here in this state. That would have been a fantastic choice we could have made here in Colorado. All right. Good to have you here. Want to remind you, all the chat rooms are open. Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page, the Media Equalizer page, the Red Wave America page. If you're on the YouTube, some people are chiming in from YouTube this morning, where we're streaming live. And let's see, we're on the Rumble as well. The X out there is booming and rocking. Wherever you watch it, you can comment, and most of those pop right here in the studio. And if producer Chad likes them, then he'll pop them up on the studio screen, and you can see them. If you're listening later in the day, thousands of earballs hear the show, see the show every day, every week. They pick up on the program. glad to have you listening to the show. And again, we're live 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. But some of you listen later in the day. And so hello, and thanks for tuning in. And as Spotify, iHeart, all those places carry us. All right, I want to welcome in my next guest of the morning, private investigator, private detective, Mr. Niels Gravilius. He's been with us many times, one of our new favorite friends. We welcome Niels Gravilius into the program on this day. Niels, welcome back, sir.
Well, I'd like to say it's a good morning, but that's kind of up in the air, isn't it, Mr. Lakey?
Yeah, it's up in the air. It's going to be a tough one. Let me ask you, I'm watching. They haven't found the shooter. They've brought a couple of people in for questioning, interrogated them, sent them on their merry way. They say there's an active search across America. As a private detective, as an investigator, say they brought Niels Gravilius in to investigate and find out what happened. Where does an investigation like this start? I think they found some gun casings, a gun. There's some rumors out there of that. When you watch this, how would you sleuth this out?
Well, I think they're on the right track, Mr. Lakey. They're analyzing every bit of camera footage that they can find. We live in a semi-surveillance state. It's ubiquitous now. I'll impart something with the audience. It is my belief that the Bureau already knows who this man is.
They know, so there's probably an active search, and they're not publicizing that to not tip him off. Would that be the case?
I think that's a pretty accurate way of putting it. Apparently, there was some sort of Antifa and transvestite, blah, 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 scratched in the remaining cartridges found in the rifle. The rifle was sort of a legacy, what we would call a deer rifle, a 30-06 bolt action. Contemporaneous with Mr. Kirk's assassination, I was fairly certain that the weapon used was a rifle. The shock and trauma was instantaneous, yet there was a very muffled report. Of course, microphones at the scene are going to distort the sound of gunfire, only one shot fired. I think that this man will be in irons or a body bag pretty soon, Mr. Lakey. That's what Niels thinks.
Well, that'd be very good news. When someone leaves something behind, you would think usually you want to get out of the crime scene without leaving a clue behind. It sounds like the report you're talking about, I see it on Western Journal. It was broken on the Louder with Crowder podcast this morning. WesternJournal.com has it. It seems like this person deliberately left a clue or some clues behind, casings, guns. Why would someone do that? They're smart enough to get up there undetected. I'm sure they could have figured out a way to not leave any clues. Why would they leave a clue?
Maybe they're not that sophisticated, Mr. Lakey. They were good at the stalk. The hardest part is making a clean break after something like this. And some people are talking about this may be a professional hit. I don't think so. It's a motivated amateur like Luigi Mangione. I'm seeing some pretty nauseating things in social media from hard leftists celebrating Mr. Kirk's death. And the moment that this person is identified, they will lionize him as a hero. It's disgusting. The party of JFK is now largely the party of Oswald.
Yeah. I guess that brings us outside of the world of private sleuth work and detective work and investigation and law enforcement and investigation to just as private citizens as you and I are. I don't see the way forward I don't know how we move forward, because these are people that are out there saying some pretty nasty things. And you've got some politicians putting out tweets and we're so sorry, Michelle Obama, Michael Obama, all these people, they're all putting out tweets, but the people that have hijacked their party, they won't kick them out. They won't rebuke them. They won't tell the Jasmine Crockett's of the world to stop the vitriol. So how do we move forward? Just as human beings, when you have a political party that's not just an opposition, they're seemingly comfortable with, if they can't cancel you, they'll kill you.
Well, yes, we need to expose the connections between the leadership and the donors within the party to this Marxist organization on the ground. Here's how it works with the good government Democrats. They want the energy of the hard left. They want their organization. They want the votes delivered, but they don't want to take responsibility for the machinery that they create on the ground. I will point out for you in the Summer of Love 2020, all of those riots took place in cities with Democrat leadership. They can't have sustained riots without partners in city government. The reason that nobody was punished for these riots is because the district attorneys, the state prosecutors in those cities were part of the political combine staging the Marxist street action. Jimmy, I will point something else out. Without public funds, there is very little hard left organization. You and I are paying for these people. They live off of NGO money cycled through government to pay for homeless services, drug outreach, DEI education, all of these things. There's an organization in Los Angeles called CHIRLA, CHIRLA, and it's ostensibly a charity. It's a nonprofit registered with the Secretary of State's office. They receive a huge amount of public funding, and they're the ones who staged the Marxist ICE riots in Los Angeles in June. They're up hanging banners on every freeway overpass every day of the week and have been for 10 years. Mr. Lakey, you and I are paying for this. And so the flaccid, slow-moving Republicans within Congress and Senate and et cetera need to start exposing the networks and defunding them and prosecuting the people involved and dry it up so they have to work for a living. All of these people are on the public tit directly or indirectly.
Yeah, it is interesting. And they blamed it on Kamala Harris's campaign, Deb, but a couple of months after they doged USAID and all these global NGOs, the Democrat National Committee came out and said they're basically out of money. It's like, well, interesting. You doge them and you shut down USAID, and suddenly the Democrats go, we don't have any money left. Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Someone just back to the investigation that somebody said, is it possible that someone would leave these clues as some kind of a misdirect? Maybe, but maybe we're giving them too much credit for sophistication.
I think we need to stick with the facts rather than sticking with speculation. The way to solve a crime is to stick with the facts and what we know. A man was murdered with a high-powered rifle by a sniper 200 meters distant. Okay, so they found a rifle. All right, why speculate about something that's not in evidence? That would be like saying maybe space aliens murdered Charlie Kirk. Okay, stick with the facts. If later it turns out that there's a misdirection, that will be obvious because there will be somebody else's DNA on the rifle or something like that. But my belief is that the Bureau or Utah authorities will have this person in irons within the next 24 hours. And I think they already know who it is.
Wow. And from your lips to God's ears, the shooter in that Idaho case of killing those college students, it took a few days, and he had escaped all the way halfway across the country, heading back to the East Coast when they arrested him in a set-up traffic stop. Utah's pretty desolate. There's a lot of empty back roads, and you can head out of there. But I heard that the Idaho guy, it was triangulation of cell phones and towers and which was where and what was where. And that's how they set up that traffic stop for this Idaho shooter. There's a lot of tools like that, just cell phone towers that are always tracking you, I'm guessing, that are at the behest of the FBI.
Oh yeah, that all of that stuff, the metadata for that is useful and available. I will point out that there were probably 5,000 mobile phones on the scene at the time that the crime occurred. So it's hunting for a needle in a needle stack if you're taking that approach. Now that they've identified a rifle, that's what I would be concentrating on. I would be swabbing every part of the rifle. I would be swabbing the cartridges for DNA. The spent shell casing was still in the chamber of the rifle when it was found. It was wrapped in a bath towel. The reason that the shooter didn't take the rifle with him on his way out is because it's too easy to identify a man carrying a deer rifle down the street, for the same reason that Oswald left his rifle behind at the Texas Book Depository. He took his pistol with him and used it to murder a Dallas police officer making his escape. But we must stick with the facts. Speculation is destructive, and it just makes people less secure rather than more secure. I trust that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are leading the best people in the FBI right now, and it will happen quickly.
Was it unusual to you as an investigator to hear, and they made a big deal, we've arrested somebody, we're investigating them and interrogating them. Oh, never mind, that's not the one. What was that about? Why was the FBI trying to be too transparent? They get our hopes up, and then you're like, well, are they paying attention? They arrested two of the wrong people, interrogated and freed them both. Was that a misstep?
I don't think it was a misstep. You take the shots that you can. One of those individuals has a long history of being a provocateur with law enforcement. I believe yesterday he told the police that he was the one who did it, and he just does it. I was researching him a little bit. He does it just to be an ass, and it's his form of activism. The other one I don't know anything about. I'll harken back to the Olympic Park bombing in Atlanta in 1996. The FBI decided that an innocent man, Richard Jewell, was the bomber and announced immediately, this is the bomber, and even tried to bring charges against the man with zero evidence. I think the process of following the evidence rather than speculation is the way to go with these things. Dan Bongino used to say on his radio show all the time, I'd listen to it now and again, the first things announced in the media are almost always false. Yeah. Right? So the facts will come out relatively quickly. This man won't get far. This isn't going to be a worldwide manhunt like for James Earl Ray.
Yeah. The voice of Niels Gravilius, a private investigator based in the Los Angeles area, graviliuspi.com, graviliuspi.com. You're right, Niels. We would say good morning, but it's not all that great. But thanks for hopping on.
Godspeed. You stay safe, Mr. Lakey, and watch your lane.
Thank you, sir. I do my best. Niels Gravilius, graviliuspi.com. All right, glad to have you. A lot of you commenting in all the chat rooms. We appreciate it. Again, all the Facebook feeds were on this morning. The X, the Twitter, the Instagram. Instagram only lets us on for an hour, so Instagram just dumped all the people watching on the Instagram. It's a 1 hour limit that they allow us to do, so we got our hour in on Instagram. So all the Instagrammers, if they don't come over to the other platforms, are going to miss out on our next guest, Jay Ratliff, our aviation and travel expert. We switched the gears up a little bit on this glorious day the Lord has made. September the 11th, by the way. I know we're talking a lot of Charlie Kirk, but 24 years ago today, where were you at? And how has your life changed since 9/11? I listened to a commentator yesterday or this morning say he feels like his life's divided into two halves, pre 9/11 and post 9/11. And I kind of relate to that. I traveled before, I traveled after. It seems like it was kind of a demarcation line for a lot of us in our generation. Jay Ratliff, aviation travel expert. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing as well as one can be on a morning like today, my friend. I'm glad you're there, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. I'm sure a lot of people needed a familiar voice today, and I'm glad you're there for us.
Well, it's a tough one. It sure is. 24 years ago, Jay, aviation travel expert that you are now, I'm guessing was shaped a lot by what happened 24 years ago. So tell us a story. You were in the airline biz.
Yeah, it was, well, we've been getting updates monthly from the FBI and the Federal Aviation Administration on this threat that was being made the previous summer from bin Laden about a spectacular attack against the aviation industry. And of course, aviation is always a target of terrorists because It creates fear, always gets a lot of press, and it impacts the economy. Because anytime you can disrupt temporarily the flow of passengers, goods, cargo, freight, those kinds of things around the country, it's a win economically. So it's kind of a double bang, if you will, for the buck. The terrorists always are going after commercial aviation. So we were worried at the time, thinking, okay, if there's going to be a spectacular attack, we're not screening any bags that go onto the airplane domestically. That means 50 people at 50 cities could have gone on 50 planes, and they all would have blown up, and we would have lost tens of thousands of people. So anytime we had a plane crash pre 9/11, we were always holding our breath, worrying, is another one about to come out of the sky? And you know, of course, what happened was something that we had not planned on. The attacks of 9/11 had nothing to do with a lack of security. I have such little tolerance for people that are going out there running their mouths about something that they're just not accurate about. Pre 9/11, you could board an airplane with a box cutter. You could board an airplane with a knife, as long as the blade wasn't 4 inches or more. So you could board an airplane with what the hijackers had. Also, the airplane crews were trained in a bank teller mentality. Somebody hijacks a plane, you open the door, you talk to them, you land the plane, you follow their instructions, you let law enforcement take care of it. So everyone involved, from security to the airline crews, did exactly what they were trained to do on that day. And of course, what happened was something that we did not expect. When the second plane hit the tower, we knew we were under attack. We knew it was bin Laden, and we knew that other planes would be involved. And it was at that point in time, Ben Sliney, who was the national operations manager for the FAA, had to make a call. We had all these thousands of airplanes flying. We didn't know which ones were compromised, which ones were not. So Jimmy, he made the call to land everything right then. This is something the FAA had never before thought of, never practiced. They didn't have a standard operating procedure for it. So what happened was the air traffic controllers were told, look, the plane's under your control. Find an airport now. Let's get them on the ground. And I think they were all on the ground in 90 minutes. Now, what this did was allowed us to account for every aircraft that was not compromised, meaning anything left in the sky is a possible target for the military if something were to happen. Now, the extraordinary part about this in Ben Sliney's call was that it had never been done before, and it was his first day on the job.
Oh, wow.
So he pulled this out in the confidence that he made in the call. You're going to do what? Something that's never been done before. And of course, it was the right call. The attacks of that day were carried out to the most part, except for the brave men and women in Pennsylvania that prevented that plane from being used as a missile. And what extraordinary courage on board that flight. But after that, no airplanes flying for 4 days, and commercial aviation is shut down. People are worried. We come back, and the first thing they do is put the National Guard at the airport security checkpoints. Well, we're managing the perception of security at that point because, again, nothing was done at security to get something through. But what happened was it started us thinking and said, hey, we've got to find a way to start screening our check bags. So thank God at that point in time, we pivoted and we found a way to make it happen. We also understood that those magnetometers that we walked through, those not so golden arches, only detected metal. If you had powder or liquid explosives strapped to your body, nothing would sound. In fact, in Russia, they had 2 airplanes brought down by 2 individuals that were wearing explosives under their clothes that went undetected. So we bring in these full body imaging scanners, which some people have a hard time with because they tend to be what are considered somewhat revealing. I don't think so, but in the eyes of some, that is the case. But you now have an ability to screen what's under people's clothing to make sure that there's no powder or liquid explosive strapped to their body. So we are considerably safer today than we were prior to 9/11. Part of the 9/11 aftermath was the decision in 2018 to retrofit every aircraft with a secondary cockpit barrier. This was in the news a couple of weeks ago. Southwest is the first airline to have it, where there's actually a gate that prevents us from getting into that little hallway that leads to the flight deck, the cockpit, where the lavatory is at. And of course, we have the reinforced cockpit doors that are on every airplane as well. Flight crews have been retrained. And look, anytime somebody acts up on an airplane, because there'll never again be another 9/11, you'll have 40 or 50 passengers all over them. It just will not happen again. But sadly, as it happens in the history of aviation, we tend to always look back to try to prevent the last attack instead of looking ahead at what might be the next attack. That's what got us in trouble then, 24 years ago. And it could get us in trouble again, because right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, safety-wise, we were probably at a 3 pre-9/11. We're probably at about a 5, 5.5 now. Definite progress has been made, my friend, but we've got a lot more to do.
Let's talk about some of that, a lot more to do, because you've talked about it a lot on my show through the years, and that is the fact that if you're an employee at an airport, you can pretty much drive right into a very secure area without little or no screening.
True. And I'm going to get a lot of emails from friends of mine in the FAA and with the airlines, especially the FAA, because I say that you can park at Denver Airport, and I don't believe Denver screens their employees quite yet. There's about 4 or 5 airports that do. And you can go from the employee parking lot to the airport facility onto the tarmac itself, which is a sterile area. Bags have been screened, passengers have been screened, but the employees have not. Now, my friends at the FAA will say, time out there, Jay, you're not telling the whole truth, because employees are screened. And I have to acquiesce and say, yes, randomly. It's a random screening process. And I always respond to my friends saying, if it's such a freaking good idea, let's do it on passengers.
Yeah.
Let's only screen every, 15th passenger. If it's such a good approach, and if it is based in security, then let's do it all the time. And of course, they're like, oh, we can't do that. And then I say, well, then why in the world are we okay in doing it here? They had to start doing it in Atlanta a number of years ago, when it was discovered that employees from Delta were running a gun smuggling ring from Atlanta to New York. You have the Miami International Airport that screens every employee before they go on the tarmac. Look at the list of things that they acquire through that screening from people who know they're being screened. Knives, guns, money, drugs, all kinds of things that people are bringing to the airport as employees, knowing they're going to get screened. And of course, it makes me think, what's going on at the other 400 and some airports around the country where we're not screening? And let me quickly add, the next step has got to be a better process at protecting the airplanes that remain overnight. We are spending billions of dollars, rightfully so, on security inside the airport. I'm okay with that. But we have to spend more money in technology outside, because if somebody goes to Lincoln, Nebraska, Colorado Springs, whatever it is, they have no problem getting onto the grounds. You just jump that very intimidating 8-foot fence with a no trespassing sign, keeping people away. Yeah. And then you stroll across the tarmac and you've got access to all these jets. By the time that anybody know what's going on at most airports, there are some things in place I won't talk about. Jimmy, you can be taxiing that airplane. You're preparing and taking off before somebody goes, whoops, we got a problem. And you may be within a close proximity of a target you're after, and you can crash that airplane without any problem at all, long before our military would have a chance to respond. But yet, even though we have stowaways that people still access airplanes, getting in the wheel well and dying, people that are found strolling across the tarmac, driving across runways, we still don't look at that as a wake-up call to do something to increase that security net. Now, I've seen airports like in San Diego and others that have much higher fences. They've got the barbed wire and things. I get that. You can still cut your way through fences. There's a lot of things that we have in technology that's in place, but nowhere near where it needs to be. So, because if it was, then we would never have a stowaway. Yeah. People that could stroll across the tarmac and get in the wheel well of an aircraft without anyone noticing. So, yeah, we've got to do a lot. I think the last count I saw was 1 million people a month touch the airplane on the tarmac that have not been screened that day.
Wow. That's a lot. That is a lot. Jay Ratliff, real quick, I want to give the hub delays, but there's another story. We'll pass the Boeing story till next week because we're short on time. Honor your time. But there's a war going on of words and marketing between United and Spirit Airlines. Both are pretty prominent here in Colorado.
Yeah,
I kind of find it humorous. Talk about that.
Yeah, United Airlines, Scott Kirby came out this week, I think it was Tuesday, and said, he was asked about Spirit. He said, low-cost carrier model. Nice experiment. Obviously failed. Now, that was right at Spirit. CEO of Spirit comes back and says, hey, we're not done yet. And yes, I think it was yesterday or today, we got the August report card showing the airlines with their on-time performance. Delta had the best on-time performance, number one. You go down through the list. Guess who number two was? It was Spirit.
Spirit, yeah.
United was number 4. Now, if I'm the CEO for Spirit, I'm having all kinds of fun with that. And that's on the on-time performance. Well, now let's look at the completion numbers where, it's one thing to have flights that are on time, but to me, always the most important statistic is how many flights did you complete? They may have been delayed, but how many did you get to your destination? And Delta's normally owned this category for years. It's one of the reasons they're my carrier of choice by default, because from a service standpoint, they're still not there. But Delta was no longer number 1 in completion.
Really?
It was Spirit.
Wow.
Now, again, I'm going to get emails. They're going to like, wait a minute, Jay, the apples and oranges. Spirit has what, 20,000 flights, and Delta and United have 150 some thousand. I don't care. If I'm the CEO for Spirit, I'm having a lot of fun here, at least until September 1st, saying if we're so bad, we don't know what we're doing, how is it you can't keep up, United? I'd go after them with both barrels. Mm-hmm. I'm not necessarily on Spirit's Christmas card list. I've gotten some very angry emails from their executives over the last few years when I'm talking about what's going on at the airline. It's not my fault. I'm just reporting on what's taking place. But I would not sell Spirit short here. I don't know what's going to happen. They may down the road end up going out of business. I don't think so, but it's going to be interesting to see. But look, with that report that came out from August, if I'm Spirit, I'm having the time of my life.
Yeah. All right, Jay Ratliff, what's it like to travel across the country today, sir?
We are in desperate need of good news, my friend. And at least from a weather standpoint, I can report that we have no weather issues across the country anywhere that's going to give us the delay, apparently more than 30 minutes. So as trivial, as trite, as minor as it may seem on the good news scale, it's all I can come up with on this anniversary of 9/11 and obviously following the brutal animal assassination that took place with Charlie. And a lot to pray about today, my friend.
Yeah. Salute. Thank you, sir. God bless you as we commemorate both the life of Charlie Kirk and the anniversary of September the 11th, 2001. All right. Tried not to be too heavy today. If you missed the opening comments of the show, I would love to get your thoughts on the on that. Go back and listen to it. If you missed the opening monologue, talked about the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I think it's a question we're going to have to figure out the next couple of days and the next couple of weeks moving forward is what happens to America? What happens to the discourse in America when the American left may tweet how sorry they are at an assassination, but the people that foment this hatred, this vitriol, call us Nazis. I mean, you can call me a lot of things, but racist is probably not one of them. You know my life and my work. And yet they use that phrase on me when I ran for Congress because they're idiots. They're intellectually bankrupt human beings. And I think the sign of, I'm going to say it, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying it anymore. I get tired of saying, well, there's some good people. I don't, where are they at? I just don't know where they're at. And if you're one of them, climb the water tower and the spray paint can and tell us why you're a great person and why you still have that Democrat registration card in your wallet because your party has been hijacked by murderous people. They don't value the sanctity of life. And if they can't kill you when they're in the womb of the abortion clinic, they'll shoot you at a university campus. It's that's hyperbolic. Prove me wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. That seems to be the lack of value of life. Whether you're riding a light rail system in North Carolina or whether you're speaking on a college campus trying to engage college students, or either way, they'll get you one way or the other. And if nothing else, they'll take your baseball away at the Phillies game. They'll do that. By the way, New York Yankees, not a big baseball fan myself, probably wouldn't say I'm a Yankees fan. They held a fantastic moment of silence last night honoring Charlie Kirk. It's interesting. We'll talk more about this, some of the accolades that have come in from Benjamin Netanyahu to Nigel Farage, a lot of professional athletes, young professional athletes. I think Lamar Jackson came out and talked about his testimony and Bible study encouragement that Charlie would give him. So I think we're going to see the impact of Charlie Kirk hopefully last the rest of our lives. It should be impactful, but I think in the next couple of days, you'll see a lot of stories and say, wow, he was more impacting than probably a lot of folks knew. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do the meme roulette here. And again, we didn't do a question of the day. There's a very somber day in America, and hopefully it gets better from here. Let's hope so. But here we go. Meme roulette, couple of memes to share this morning. And some of them may not be that funny. Some of them may just kind of outline the story of what we're talking about today. But let's do it. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Donald Trump, yep, not a single. By the way, Elizabeth Warren, what could we do to stop this, Elizabeth? Well, we could ban the guns. Yep, not a single Democrat called for a gun ban after I got shot. That's actually true. They didn't really care about those guns in. True. Round and around the globe, if they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any at all. Speaking of the baseball, they'll take your baseball away if they can't kill you at the abortion clinic. There you go. My precious, I see no differences. They look a lot alike. Both of them probably voted for Kamala. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. I love this political cartoon. I said this to producer Chad. There's Pocahontas in her Indian attire saying, vaccine denier. And then you realize she's just the puppet and there's a puppet master. See it? You see it? Yep. Like a NASCAR driver. She ought to have patches on her dress or her whatever Native Americans wear. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is true. Someone says if this had happened like this, that Charlotte stabbing, notice the people there, it would have been big news. This news obviously kind of disappeared with the assassination of Charlie Kirk yesterday. But if you look at it and all the racial features of everyone was reversed on that train, probably would have gotten a bigger coverage by MSNBC and the fake news media. Here we go. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Here's a tribute to Charlie. We'll end it on this. Charlie Kirk is an American martyr. Charlie gave his life for his God and his country. May we rise up with a full heart, defeat the evil that stole Charlie Kirk from us. God help us. May this be the turning point. And from your lips to God's ears, maybe this could be a turning point for America in which we once and for all realize that, first of all, there's evil people among us. Some of them are emboldened by political parties, and we cannot be silenced by these people. If you missed some of my stories of threats and things, that was at the opening monologue that's there. Even last year, having to avoid the iHeart studio because they wanted to keep an employee afraid they'd lose that position rather than worried about safety and the insanity that person did. I've lived through it, and I'm still breathing. Unfortunately, Charlie's not. See you tomorrow. Oh, Homes with Sherry. Let me pause this very quick. I didn't mean to overlook this. It's very important you support our great advertisers. And Sherry Cree is a fantastic sponsor. We talk about Layman Lewis at times. We've talked about so many great people that help make the show possible. Sherry Cree is day after day sponsoring the show, and she helps us keep going, and we appreciate her so much. And listen, if you are a person that's in the real estate market, maybe you've been watching the interest rate projections and how interest rates are going to pan out and they're going to go up or down, you need to have that strategy in place. Some people wait till they're very reactionary. And Sherry can help you be proactive, whether it's the interest rates and getting in now. There's a way to do that. So we talked about it last week on the show, or whether it's being proactive and getting ready so that maybe you want to get to this narrow fall window of sales. Maybe you want to get past the holidays and you're looking at springtime and you're thinking March, April, May, June. Maybe you talk to Sherry about maybe February, March, maybe better. So that there's strategy, and she will help you with that strategy. And it's not just a quick sell, a quick sign of the yard. There needs to be some strategy in what you do, how you price, what your home look like. And some of that takes a process, and she can walk you through that process. A portion of all of her proceeds go back to a charity of your choice. If she gets a commission on a show, donate a portion of that back to a charity of your choice. Fantastic lady, great real estate mind. One of the hardest, most networked people I probably have ever met in my life. She's always networking. She's always out meeting people. She's always taking care of her clients. I know her personally. She's traveled to Africa with us, and she's just a fantastic lady. But if you want to sell your home, you need somebody like Sherry in your corner. Buy, sell, whatever. I-25 corridor, let's say Boulder, Broomfield, Denver, Aurora, Parker, up to Fort Collins, Greeley. Reach out to Sherry, and if she thinks there's a better fit, she'll refer you to someone else, because maybe there's an area that she knows somebody that's real strong in that specific area. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Reach out to her and tell her that you listen to her name being spoken with love and adulation on the Jimmy Lakey Unleashed Streamcast. All right, everybody, go to iHeart, go to Spotify, go to Podbean, go to all the platforms, and download us, like us. We'll be up there all day. If you missed us, listen to it. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Ray has a good admonition. Hug the one you love tightly today is a good thing. And pray for the American left, because God knows they need it. Yeah. I'll be back tomorrow. Good Lord willing, creek shall rise. God bless you. God bless America. I'm out.